How shocked were you that the Browns chose him first?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise. Not necessarily like during the draft, because we had been prepared for that for about, the 20 to 24 hours leading up to the draft. That word was starting to leak out of Cleveland. I thought John Dorsey did a great job of hiding that pick until that late hour. But that was the biggest surprise for me, because this entire time we thought that Sam Darnold was really the consensus, almost the unanimous choice for them at number 1, and then everything was going to get slotted after that. But the fact that Sam Darnold then slips to 3, and then the other 2 quarterbacks slip down a little bit lower than maybe we had projected them going in the top 6 initially, I think that was obviously a big surprise. Now, I will say that Cleveland's other selection was also a big surprise. I did not think they were going to go with Denzel Ward. That was not something that was prevalently thought of. And that led to my second most surprising pick, which was the fact that Bradley Chubb, who you guys have just talked about, now playing with Von Miller at Denver. And I think John Elway and Gary Kubiak and everybody in Denver on the decision-making side was thrilled that Chubb was available, because they're going to get to follow the blueprint that led to their last Super Bowl, just as Nick mentioned. And I think Von Miller and Bradley Chubb all of a sudden now make one of the best tandem pass rushers in the National Football League. And that's what they have to do, and that's what they're going to have to continue to excel at while they figure out this quarterback position. They hope that they have addressed this with Case Keenum, but now we'll wait and see.
Joel, I believe that if the Jets had the number 1 overall pick, they would have taken Sam Darnold. They went into a few weeks ago, they had the number 6 pick. They move up to 3. They still get Sam Darnold. I'm sure they're thrilled with the pick. How successful do you think he will be with the Jets, who haven't had a quarterback since Vinny Testaverde, maybe? What do you think of it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was in Mile High Stadium, the old Mile High Stadium, when Bill Parcells brought that Jets team with Vinny Testaverde to an AFC Championship game. I know that they've gone to subsequent AFC Championship games with Mark Sanchez, but this was a good pick. I mean, a great trade to get up to 3. You get their number 1 guy. I fully agree with you. If they had the number 1 pick, they would have taken Sam Darnold. As soon as Baker was selected and it was actually official, there was a bit of a frenzy there for number 2. Denver tried to get up to number 2 because Sam Darnold was the number 1 quarterback on their board. Ultimately, they couldn't get it done because New York, the Giants were asking for just too much, and that led to the Jets being able to sit there, not have to move, and get their number 1 guy. That is a great night if you're a Jets fan. I thought Sam Darnold was the safest quarterback available in this draft. He makes everybody around him better. You have to understand now, this guy has already rescued a franchise. I mean, his coach was going to get fired within weeks. I'm telling you, within weeks, Clay Helton was going to get fired after that 1-2 start and losing 52-6 to Alabama. It was doom and gloom at USC, one of the most proud programs in college football, and this guy was inserted into the lineup, and all of a sudden they're beating Penn State in the Rose Bowl. So he's done this before, and I think it's that type of mentality that's going to allow him to go in there in a really positive room with Josh McCown, who you guys have talked about. I was with Josh in Detroit, one of the greatest men in the NFL. He's going to mentor Sam Darnold. That's a great fit for Sam Darnold, and I really believe that Sam's going to have a lot of success. I don't know if it's going to come right away, but eventually he's going to have a lot of success, and I believe he's going to be one of the top 10, 11 quarterbacks in the National Football League within 3 or 4 years.
Joel, with the surprise of Baker Mayfield going number 1 to Cleveland, we started to see the quarterback starting to slide. Darnold usually slided there at number 3. We also saw Josh Allen to the Bills, and then, of course, we saw Nick's guy to Arizona at number 10. Were you bothered by Josh Rosen's comments about how the 9 teams previously picked before him, he was pissed off and he would make them pay for it?
Yeah. CC, I think it matters where and when you heard them first. So, like, can you tell guys? You tell me, like, where did you read them first? Did you hear them first? Like, where did you first see those comments?
Saw him live. I heard him live. I heard him right after when he did the interview. Sit down. I heard him live, not the sound bites in the morning.
Okay, so I was doing the radio with Kurt Menefee, Jay Glazer, and Chris Spielman. So he actually came up and sat with us for about 3 or 4 minutes last night. And so I hadn't seen any interviews or read anything during, because we're just doing the draft on the radio. And so when he sits with us, Chris Spielman basically asked him, like, how do you feel? And that was, he gave that answer right away. And sitting right next to him, it was genuine. And it was almost prophetic, and I just caught that air about it, because I did not think that there was an air of arrogance about it or anything along those lines. I got the sense that this guy was very motivated. He's an extremely talented player. He's obviously a very smart guy. He's willing to speak his mind. And sitting right next to him, I was not bothered at all, to answer your question. And in fact, if I was a fan of the Arizona Cardinals, I would be jacked up, because I'm like, hey, we just got the most NFL-ready quarterback. We didn't have to move up as far as we thought we were going to have to move up to do that, and he's motivated at this point. So you got the most talented guy who's maybe the one now with the biggest chip on his shoulder. That's a powerful scenario, and I think Cardinal fans should be really happy about it.
Hey, Joel, the 5th quarterback in the first round was Lamar Jackson. A lot of people wondered where he would go, who wanted to take him. We talked all week about the Patriots maybe being interested. They passed on him twice. The Baltimore Ravens grabbed him. How do you think he will fit in Baltimore?
Yeah, it's an interesting fit regardless of where Lamar was going to go, because his skill set is so unique and brilliant. The guy is one of the most brilliant players I've seen and evaluated in a long time. And his tape is extraordinary. Youngest player to win the Heisman Trophy. He got better as a passer every single year under a guy in Bobby Petrino, his head coach, who's very difficult to play for. Okay, there's some coaches that coddle their quarterbacks. Bobby Petrino is not one of them. So you know that Lamar Jackson is coachable, that he can take that criticism and go and apply it on the field and become a better and more efficient passer. He got to his second and third progression, man in the progression a lot more in his last year. So I think it's a good fit. The thing that I think is interesting is that normally you see teams follow their own blueprint, right, or their own philosophy, and he's nothing like Joe Flacco. Now, he's not very similar to anybody, and granted, I'll grant you that, but with all the moves that they've made at that position, it seems like they want to get away from the type of offense that Joe Flacco has flourished under, which is kind of stand there and just be outside the numbers and down the field. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of a philosophy change overall for the Baltimore Ravens, as this was the last draft, remember, for Ozzie Newsome.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.